Hey, greetings everyone. It is GleeCon, and I'm back again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we took our feral night elf druid and we finished up Darkshore pretty much. We're on a quest line, the absent-minded professor that really ends up in wetlands, and I don't think it culminates until that quest is over. So when we start and transition into Ashenvale in the next episode with her, we'll actually probably have her do that one wetlands quest first, because I don't think that she's going to be heading that way. When I look through, at least not in a timely fashion, I do have her. Yeah, she pretty much all of the other quests I do have her going into Hillsbrad Foothills. So if I really wanted to, after Ashenvale, I could make her go through there and just sit on that quest the whole time. I guess we'll see how hard it is. Um, we've also been reading the Dungeons and Dragons World of Warcraft campaign setting books. We are finishing up the penultimate one, the Monster Guide, and we are now just doing some wrap up duty. We're going to be doing the final few chapters all in one go because it's all stat heavy stuff. We're just going to glance over it, and then we'll do the appendices, the online additional stuff at the end. So stay a while and listen as we kick off the end of this book, and on the next time we read, we're going to be reading the very last Dungeons and Dragons book, unless they make something new in the year 2023 that we'll ever be reading on this channel. Okay. So this third chapter, the first chapter was the book, the monsters. The second was the bosses that we read about. The third was if you wanted to level up with monsters, and as you can see, it is all heavy on the stats, no lore. So we're just going to glance through how to raise their levels, what the hit dice increase would look like, specific templates. We read about some of those templates. It says how to read a template, how to have multi-template. I don't know how you would do that. Maybe if you wanted to have, I don't even. I'm trying to think of a lot of them are undead, but maybe if you wanted to have like an undead werewolf, you can increase a monster's challenge rating outside of like being a playable character class just by making more powerful versions of it. They give you that. That's the entire third chapter. The fourth chapter is how to play as monsters, and maybe the current Blizzard staff, if they wanted to, rather than create entirely new races that were not asked for by anyone like the Drakthir, they would consider dipping into some of the canonical potential races here. But they don't get into the details. They just say like, hey, what would you do? How would you level up? What level do you treat them as? Then they give some actual monster feats. So I don't know why these are specific to monsters. Like this craft construct. I don't know why a human, like a playable character, I guess it's too powerful. Greater multi-weapon fighting. It says all its hands, so I guess if you're playing a race that has more than two hands, like a Shiva. Improved multi-weapon fighting, multi-weapy. That's below that. Improved natural armor, improved natural attack, improved spellcasting. Notice a theme: multi-weapon fighting. Perfect two-weapon fighting. That's just two weapons, but you have to have an agility of 25, which if we're going on the current stat block, you can't naturally have that. In my current D&D campaign, I recently found a belt of frost giant strength with my barbarian, and so now with that he has a 23, but 20 is the natural max. Snatch and two-weapon rend, epic ability. There's villain equipment, so these are the specific powers. I guess we could read at least some of these, just the descriptions. So there's the Chains of Kel'Thuzad. The Chains of Kel'Thuzad are a specially crafted set of 7 magic spiked chains that Najul gave to Kel'Thuzad. The bearer must wrap this artifact around his body to activate it, at which point the chains animate and move lazily to and fro in the air when not being commanded. I don't know if, I feel like all liches have some version of that in retail, but maybe it's just Kel'Thuzad. It says each chain has a different power. 3 of them are icy burst spiked chains. 2 of the remaining chains are used to grapple foes, And the 6th one gives armor class bonus. The 7th is the most slender, gives spell resistance, and it's wrapped about the 6th. And is that, what did it say? Oh, it's 7 magic chains. Cool. All right, now that's a major artifact. All the rest are minor artifacts. There's Ashkandi, the great sword of the Brotherhood. The massive two-handed sword has a hilt resembling the intertwined necks and heads of 2 red dragons. The weapon's wicked and possibly sharp blade only hints at the massive power contained within. It's +6 thorium great sword that also does an additional 66 damage. That's just super strong. I think that was one of those dragon people had it. There's the Black Blade of Shahram. The Black Blade of Shahram is a large charcoal black scimitar crafted entirely of dark iron and inscribed with draconic runes of power. Legend says Nefarian crafted the weapon in his human guise as Victor Nefarious, using the forges of the Black Hand orcs. He crafted it especially for Dracasath. So this is used by one of the dragon people. It's a +5 large fiery burst flurry scimitar. Sounds cool. And once per day, it can invoke its power, which gives it super strength, basically. And it says Shahram is bound to the blade, can't resist the owner's command, and the blade has to be destroyed in order to free him. So, like, maybe you could have a quest around that. All right, there's Baron Rivendare's Runeblade. The most powerful bastard sword, or this powerful bastard sword, is Baron Rivendare's most prized possession next to his undead steed Deathcharger. The finely crafted blade bears a false hilt and is etched with necromantic runes all down the blade. The blade pulses with cold power, seeming all too ready to draw blood from enemies. It is normally just a +2 bastard sword, but in his hands it activates to become a +6 Keen Frost Unholy bastard sword, and it grants regeneration while he wields it. And they may also cast Bloodlust. But it just says overwhelming abjuration and necromancy. But that's interesting. For everybody else, it's just meh. Warblade of Archimonde. Archimonde left this blade in the hands of his trusted lieutenant Lord Kazakh. Kazakh now wields it in deference to his commander, often holding the weapon aloft and shouting for Archimonde as a battle cry when entering combat. It is a huge +6 keen greatsword of wounding with a crit multiplier of ×3, and 1/3 of its damage is fell damage. It drains stamina with its hit and therefore heals himself by doing so. They also gain a +8 bonus against spells versus necromancy. And his rage lasts extra long when he wears it, which is interesting. That's not really how rage works anymore. Anybody else that any non-demon that tries to wield it loses 4 levels. That sucks. All right, the Ring of Binding. It's a silver band etched with glowing blue eldritch runes. While Onyxia finds the style of the band distasteful, she wears it because of its great power. It gives a holy word shield spell and always absorbs 120 points of damage. So that's nice. It's like a barrier. Okay, there's the Amulet of Natural Armor. Now we're on to the wondrous items. The amulet, usually crafted from bone or beast scales, toughens the wearer's body and flesh. Okay, sounds like multiple people can have this. There's different kinds. I don't know who has it. Ever-burning Furnace, considered a blasphemy by both mages and tinkers. These devices meld magic and steam technology into one handy portable device made by enchanting a phlogiston boiler to run purely on magic. An ever-burning furnace grants the same power as a boiler without the need for refueling. That's cool. There's also the Shackles of Ragnaros. Ragnaros keeps tight rein over his minions. He gives these bracers to his most important elemental minions for just that purpose. Probably whatever, Gar or whatever his name is, and the two elementals that serve him. Lord Baron Geddon. The bracers are crafted from gold and elementium, intricately carved with elemental runes, and it gives +5 resistance against being controlled. It gives him +5 to control them. So Ragnaros has an easier time controlling him. He keeps that a secret from him. Otherwise, it just buffs their stats, their physical stats, not their mental stats. There's a couple kinds of steam armor. Thermoplug's battle armor. The massive armor appears to be modeled after an insane hellish goblin painted red on most of its dark iron metal. Its right arm ends in a club-like protrusion and his left in a massive steam fist between two upper and lower pincer fingers. A massive saw rests in that arm, while a great flame roars from a hole in its chest. Thermoplug constructed this enormous suit of armor during Nomergon's invasion. Resembling a gigantic goblin, the suit has been given extensive modifications since it was first made. Most recently, Thermoplug replaced the standard iron hull with dark iron. The armor's left arm ends in a mechanical hand with 3 digits, 2 on the top of the hand and 1 opposable thumb on the bottom of the hand. The hand can extend somewhat from his arm and bears a retractable saw blade that unfurls from the arm and fights from the left shoulder. When in rest, the saw lies between the fingers of the steam fist, but cannot be used as a weapon until it unfurls. The armor's right arm ends in a thick cable attached to a frame that holds a giant metal device through which he controls the robots that populate much of Nomergon. It also makes a handy club. The upper suit is capable of rotating 180 degrees in either way, making rear attacks almost impossible for an aware pilot. There's also the universal remote within the steam armor. In essence, an oversized gnomish universal remote. I believe that's a thing you can also create in the game. The armor can control technological devices in a much wider radius. Such a remote is so massive and sturdy that steam armors can safely use the device as a weapon in battle. Okay, yeah, and it just lets them control any construct or tech device within 1 mile. But on a malfunction, it empowers the construct it tries to create and draws all the threat of that construct onto itself. Okay, chapter 5 are the different monster types, abilities, yada yada yada. They kind of go with D&D. We're not going to actually break down all of them, but I'll give you a little bit of rundown in case you're not as familiar with D&D. Aberrations typically are just things that would not naturally appear in nature. Beholders are a good example of an aberration. They have tons of different stats that go along with it. There's air subtype, animal type, aquatic, augmented. This is something that can change its shape, so a shape-changing type. Blind sense, anything that is just what it sounds like, we're going to go ahead and skip. Blind sight, a boundless mind. They can cast arcanist spells, don't need spell books because they have like a mental palace, if you will, where they keep all of their spells. And they have effectively the spell mastery feats, which are like the sorcerer meta magic feats from the current iteration of Dungeons and Dragons, but applied to every spell, so a little OP there. Breath weapon, change shape as opposed to augmented. Oh, I see. Augmented is if you have had your shape changed into something else, usually because they've taken a template. Whereas change shape would be shape changer. Chaotic, that's more an alignment, but whatever. Cold, constrict, construct, damage reduction to whatever. They spend a lot of time talking about that. Demons, dragons, earth, elemental, energy drain, which is essentially hit life draining. But I guess you could also drain stats or levels. Evil, extraplanar would be like, I don't know, aliens, demons, devils. Fast healing is regeneration. Fear, catching fire. So explains the rules on what it means when your character catches fire from like a fire elemental strike. A fell strike is that green fiery fell damage. Fey would be like elves, nature. Fire, flight, frightful presence. Gaze, so like a beholder's gaze attack. Giants also includes like ogres, at least in Dungeons and Dragons rules. On this, it's also just talking about generally just your size and strength. Good. Humanoid. Immediate action. So this would be like a free action. Oh, there you go. It says larger expenditure than a free action, but it can perform this action. So I would think of it sort of like a legendary action that certain creatures get in current Dungeons and Dragons. It's not like a swift or free action, but it is an action they have access to that can happen even on other people's turns. Immunity to magic, improved grab, incorporeal shape like a ghost or whatever. Lawful type, low light vision, magical beast type. I don't know. Maybe you. That's. I'm trying to think of an example of a magical beast, but yeah, it's a beast that's magical. Manufactured weapons. So the instead of using their claws as opposed to natural weapons, mechanical, monstrous humanoid like orcs. I guess would be a monstrous humanoid, but maybe that's different now. Maybe because this is WoW, maybe orcs don't apply. Maybe like an owlkin, wildkin. Different movement modes. The native subtype. Oh, it's only applied to outsiders. These creatures have mortal ancestors or a strong connection to Azeroth. So they are basically an outsider type, like, I don't know, an Eridar or something like that, but that is treated the same way you would treat just regular, like, mortal creatures. Natural weapons, they give examples: bite, claw, yada yada yada. Non-abilities are stats, oozes, or what you have if you have a non-ability in a certain. That's what it is. So if you have no strength, that means you can't touch anything. I guess maybe like a ghost. If you have no agility, you can't move. You're like a rock. If you have no stamina, you just have no like fortitude. So a lot of undead things, I would imagine, are like that. If you have no intellect, you can't think. You're mindless, like a construct. If you have no spirit, you have no wisdom. That means you are sightless, soundless. You have no perception whatsoever. Again, like a rock. Yeah, it says if you have no spirit, you're an object. And if you have no charisma, yeah, you have no concept of self. Again, if you don't have a charisma, then you are an object. Okay, there are oozes, outsiders. Let's see. Partially composed of the essence of another plane. So this is like extraplanar. So basically like angels and possibly devils. So native subtypes would be, even though you are an outsider, you are still treated normal. So maybe like they're minions. A fellhound is what's coming to my mind. Paralysis ability, the plant type, poison, pounce, powerful charge, rake, a ray that's like a beholder's eye beam, regeneration as opposed to fast healing. I guess this is just it extends to death. Like you would continue to regenerate after quote unquote death unless certain things happen. Resistances to certain energies, scent, the shape changer subtype as opposed to something that can just change shape. Sonic attacks, also thunder and stuff like that. Generic special abilities like spell-like abilities, extraordinary abilities. Spell resistances, the ability to cast spells. See, we're just doing pages and pages and pages of this stuff. If you can be summoned, swallow whole, swarm, lots of rules on swarm, swift action, is somewhere in between free. They've gotten rid of all of the immediate swift, all of that. Now it's just free action, and that's good because that bogs down the action. I'm reading this just as an aside here. I'm reading this very it's an interesting book. It's a true story. It's about the history of Dungeons and Dragons, but it's almost like an expose. And it kind of talks about how it began, how it was originally TSR, what its strengths were, how the company had a downfall, the rise of Wizards to the Coast, and how Wizards to the Coast took over Dungeons and Dragons and made it into arguably a very successful, in my opinion, it's very successful today, and it's better than it was before. I like it a lot in its current iteration. It could be improved a little bit here and there, but I like it a lot. There are some iterations of D&D that were just painful, really. Like the one that came before this, which would be either the first, I think it might be the first Wizards of the Coast, but it might be the last TSR. The last iteration before the current of Dungeons and Dragons was just terrible, terrible rule set. But anyway, currently they've streamlined a lot of things, and I like it. Telepathy, trample, tremor sense, treasure, turn resistance, undead type, vulnerability to energy, and water subtypes. Okay, cool. So as you continue, we've got chapter 6, how to give XP, whether you do it by monster, by encounter level, or other actions. And I used to be a big fan of awarding XP for every individual creature. And I think if you had a combat-based campaign where all you really did was fight and combat, I like that. But the more I play D&D and other games, the more I like encounter levels. The same thing. It's kind of like you just beat the encounter because and that has I think if I do XP by monster, I usually combine these two things because then you still get awards for say having successfully completing diplomatic missions or avoiding traps, and I do think you should get XP for that stuff. Um, but I also and then whatever you can get XP just for completing quests. That's more standard how it would be in WoW. But I like milestone rewards a little bit better now that I play because this is a pure Dungeons and Dragons aside. Um, as a DM and as someone that plays, I think you quickly get over the fact that oh, I'm not having to tabulate the XP that I get for every single monster, um, and instead you're rewarded for completing chapters, which takes out the ability to gain a level in the middle of the chapter. It makes things a little bit more clean in certain areas, but also it encourages the players to not treat it like a video game. DMing it where you just level up after certain episodes, you don't have to fight everything you see. You can run. You can create it. As a dungeon master, I've noticed it, and as a player, I've noticed it. It encourages you to search for out of the box, almost more realistic types of ways to problem solve, rather than just getting XP every time you kill a goblin or whatever. So I like that. Now, even games like board games. So let's say that we're going to take it to the pure fighting level. Gloomhaven would be an example of a board game that is essentially very Dungeons and Dragons like. It's like a living board game. If you haven't heard of it, I strongly suggest looking it up. It's probably uh, it's up there definitely in my top 3 tabletop games of all time, not counting Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is in a class by itself. Um, I just love it, and it's very appealing. But the way that they award XP is also not by creature. You don't gain XP for every creature that you kill, and they kind of do it differently, where you get XP for certain other things. It's a very, very interesting system. If you're interested in playing it, but you don't think you want to drop $200 on a board game, because I think it used to go for 150, if it's even still out, easily available to find after shipping and handling, it's going to come close to 200. There's a Target exclusive, where it used to be Target exclusive. You could probably get it on Amazon now. It's a lot cheaper. It's probably under 100. It's a prequel that gives you a little easier introduction to it. There's also an expansion, and I think last year or the year before they came out with a sequel called Frosthaven. All very cool. I'm in the middle of playing through it as a campaign, because you play through it as a campaign like a D&D thing if you want. On a different episode, I'll get into it because I don't want to belabor this one. Maybe on one of the ones where we're on our next play session, we'll talk about Gloomhaven. But they've also made it. They've exported it into a video game. I think it's on Steam. So you could always check it out if you don't think you have, and you can also play it solo. So even if you're worried like I don't have the people to play it with, it's designed to be played from 1 to 4 players, so you could easily play it on your own. In fact, I've played it on my own a lot. But lately I have a campaign going on with my son and my wife, and we have it. It's pretty cool. I'll talk about it in the next episode. Anyway, that one has even so just the concept of the only way to get XP is for microtransactions between monsters, basically, is, I think that's going by the wayside. All right, let's start the appendices. We have appendix 1, which is monsters and magic. How do they react? And they tell you how to call elementals, how to have a fell companion. So basically, if you're a warlock, how to dismiss and abandon your companion in game terms. I wish you could abandon your companions now and get a new name, or hell, name your own demon. I guess canonically that wouldn't make sense, but I feel like you could call your demon whatever you want. Like if I just want to call my demon whatever yeah, I think that should be allowed. Maybe there's a way to name your demon. I don't know. So they give some alternate rules, how to have more than one. I guess if you were like a demonology warlock and you had a million imps, um, how to advance your actual companion. That's not a thing anymore. And the powers that they get within the game. I don't know that you can still get fellhounds. I don't remember. Different summon spells, tables for that, and a few other little spells like they're saying animate dead. This one gives skeletons or zombies. Animate plants. That doesn't exist. They're saying baleful polymorph. You're turning them into a sheep. Create greater undead. They've created a new table. Elemental swarm. What does that do? Force of nature. Now it creates ancient protectors instead of treants, and shamblers instead of shambling mounds, because those don't exist. Although in my mind, shambling mounds are very similar to those fungal guides. All right, so this is just a table. Gives all the monsters listed by challenge rating, so that exists out there. If you're interested, you could look up this. Remember, I just find all this stuff online. Monsters by type, they have it broken down that way. And then here's Baron Rivendeer on the back of the book itself. Pretty cool. And now we've moved on to the web guide supplement, which is further broken into its own chapters. But we're just going to kind of look at the flavor text for all, because it looks like it's mostly animals. Let's see, but that's where we're starting with chapter 1. They're going to be fast because, as you can see, it's just very quick. So apes, powerful omnivores resembling gorillas, but are far more aggressive. They kill and eat anything they can catch. They're 5.5 to 6 feet tall, weigh 300 to 400 pounds. Level 2, they tear things apart with their mighty claws. Badgers, I can't remember ever fighting a badger in the game. The badger is a furry animal with, except for those things in Northrend, but they're like humanoid badgers. With a squat, powerful body, its strong forelimbs are armed with long claws for digging. An adult badger is 2 to 3 feet long and weighs 25 to 35 pounds. Maybe you can fight some, but that's like more recent, I think. Like BFA and beyond. Badgers attack with their sharp claws and teeth, and they have a rage. There are bears, black, grizzly, and polar bear types. The black bear is a forest-dwelling omnivore that's usually not dangerous unless an interloper threatens its cubs or food supply. They can be pure black, blonde, or cinnamon, and are rarely more than 5 feet. They rip with claws and teeth and know how to swim. Grizzly bears are massive carnivores weighing more than 1,800 pounds and stand nearly 8 feet tall when they rear up on their hind legs. They are bad-tempered and territorial. The grizzly bear statistics can be used for almost any big bear, including other, I guess, bigger brown bears. And they have improved grab and can also swim. And the polar bears are long, lean carnivores, slightly taller than grizzly bears. They fight just like grizzly bears. It said they're good at racial stealth. I mean, yeah, because they're good at hiding in the snow. However, they should get swim too. They're the best swimmers out of all of them, I believe. And those are levels 2, 4, and 4. All right, and in standard D&D, I think polar bears are actually stronger than grizzly bears. Yeah, they have larger hit die, so I don't know why the challenge rating is the same. All right, bison. These herd animals can be aggressive when protecting young and during mating season, but they generally prefer flight to fighting. A bison stands more than 6 feet tall at the shoulder and is 9 to 12 feet long. I don't know. You'd have to Google these stats to see if these are accurate animal biological measurements. It weighs 1,800 to 2,400 pounds. The bison statistics can be used for almost any large herd animal. That's also level 2. They have a stampede power. Okay, boar. There are boars and battle boars. There is also other ones, but I think we read about them in the actual non-addendum. Though not carnivores, these wild swine are bad-tempered. They usually charge anyone who disturbs them. A boar is covered in coarse grayish-black fur. Adult males are 4 feet long and 3 feet high at the shoulder. And they have a ferocity, means they're hard to kill. And the battle boar are specially trained by the quill boar of Kalimdor they have sharp metal caps on their tusks that make them do extra damage. Okay, buzzards, these are definitely in the game. Level 1/2 or 2. Buzzards are scavengers along savannas and other arid environments. These statistics also represent vultures and other carrion birds. They just flap and bite, and the giant ones are more common. And actually, I feel like you can fight some version of them in Tanara, so how do you explain like a level 50 buzzard? Okay, so there are cats, and we're talking about like your little house cat here. So it's a level of 1/4, and they just sneak up. They have good balance. They do like no damage. In regular D&D, what do they do? Like 1 damage. Yeah, their full attack is 1d4, 1d2 -4, and 1d3 -4, and they have a -1 to hit. So what if they do 0? They do 0. I don't know how that works, or if 1 is the minimum. If they do negative, are they healing you with their kitty cat kisses? All right, cheetahs are level 2. Cheetahs are the swift feline predators of the plains. A cheetah is 3 to 5 feet long and weighs 110 to 130 pounds. These are in the game. They make sudden sprints. They can trip you down and sprint very fast, once per hour. There's crocodiles and giant crocodiles, levels 2 and 4, respectively. Crocodiles are aggressive predators, 11 to 12 feet long. They lie mostly submerged in rivers and marshes with only their eyes and nostrils showing, waiting for prey to come within reach. They have an improved grab where they can kind of pull you into the water. They hold their breath because they're reptiles. They can't breathe underwater, and they're good at stealthy. The giant ones are saltwater version that can be 20 feet long. Crocolisks. These are common. I think they just have more legs. They're level 3. The lizard-like creature is massive in length and covered in thick, rough scales that run from the end of its tail to the tip of its maw. Mottled green in color with yellowish fangs, the beast is supported by 6 squat legs with webbed feet, each of which ends in short black claws. Crocolisks are powerful amphibious predators common in most regions, attacking unwary adventurers sailing their waterways. They exist naturally in both fresh and saltwater environments, preferring to remain close to land. However, seafarers occasionally report sighting giant crocolisks out in the ocean miles from dry land. Crocolisks spend most of their time submerged, but are equally at home on land and often climb onto shore to sun themselves or to roll in warm mud. They're strong swimmers, able to surge forward with bursts of speed that often catch prey by surprise. They prefer to feed on defenseless prey such as small aquatic creatures or larger land creatures that flounder across bodies of water. However, crocolisks never hesitate to defend their territory aggressively from trespassers. Okay, it says they usually lie in wait submerged near the edge of a body of water with only their eyes and nostrils showing. When it spots prey within 60 feet, it charges to the attack. It uses a lacerate ability until the victim bleeds to death and drags the corpse back to its watery home. It has an improved grab, lacerates like a bleed, can hold its breath, and they gain bonuses to stealth. I think they spent more words on that because that's a unique, like, to the World of Warcraft creature. Okay, dogs are level 1/3, little better than cats. The statistics presented here represent a fairly small dog, about 20 to 50 pounds in weight. They can also be used for wild canines such as coyotes, jackals, and wild dogs. Like my dog weight is like 75 pounds, my husky, and I would say he's more like akin, maybe even a little smaller than the hyenas. Oh, I guess that's not counting hyena. Small wild canines like a coyote or jackal. I don't know. I guess you fight some small dogs in the game. The only ones I can think of are like the hounds. They hunt in packs, and they're good at jumping. Okay, eagles. Eagles are level 1/2. These birds of prey inhabit nearly every terrain and climate, though they all prefer high, secluded nesting spots. Typical eagle is about 3 feet long and has a wingspan of about 7 feet. The stats presented here can describe any similar-sized diurnal bird of prey. They just swoop and rake. Frenzy are the tiny fish. They're actually not that tiny. They're voracious toothy fish, level of 1/4. They attack and any prey with ravenous hunger. They have blind sense. It sure seems that way. It seems like every mob in WoW has blind sense, and they have a keen scent if they taste that blood in the water. Giraffes. Okay, so here's a little small anecdote. So they have the giraffes and the barons. I don't know. This might be the one creature in the game that there is no quest to kill. I have not yet found a quest that requires you to kill them. I'm going to keep my eye out. It's going to be notable for me. But so far, even accidentally hitting with AoE, I have not, with any characters, killed a giraffe. Now, on retail, if there was a quest that I'm forgetting, sure, I may have killed one. But so far in my WoW Classic and in any time of recent memory, I go out of my way. I don't know why. I'll kill the zebra just fine, but I don't want to kill the giraffe. Something about them. I like giraffes, I guess. They're level 2. They're graceful herbivores with long necks, and they eat the leaves from the tops of trees. Giraffes are docile herbivores, but defend themselves with their hooves if attacked. However, the hoof attack is treated as a secondary attack, and adds only half the giraffe's strength bonus to damage. These secondary attacks are noted with an asterisk in the attack and full attack. So even if they attack you, they're weak. Okay, horses. These are all level 1. Whether you do a light horse, heavy horse, or light war horse. They're domesticated for riding and as beasts of burden. A horse is not trained for war, so and if they're not, they don't normally use their hoofs to attack. If its hoof attack is treated as a secondary attack like the giraffe and adds only half the horse's strength bonus to the damage. Okay, so the stats presented here describe smaller breeds of workhorses such as quarter horses and Arabians, as well as wild horses like Spirit, Stallion, and the Cimarron. These animals are usually ready for useful work by age 2. A light horse cannot fight while carrying a rider. The heavy horse is descriptive of a large breed of working horses such as a Clydesdale. These animals are usually ready for heavy work by age 3, so kind of like the ones you would get on Coltiris. A heavy horse cannot fight while carrying a rider, and a light war horse is like a light horse, but they're trained and bred for strength and aggression. They're usually not ready for warfare before age 3. They can fight while carrying a rider, but the rider can't also attack unless they make a ride check. They can carry a little bit more weight than a normal, so they're like light horses that go to the gym. All right, the hyenas are level 1 or stronger. Hyenas are pack hunters infamous for their cunning and their unnerving vocalizations. The statistics presented here are for a striped hyena, which is about 3 feet long and weighs 120 pounds. So I've been reading on my own. I've probably talked about this on the show before. I always have like a few books in rotation, usually probably like 5 or 6. So I'm reading the D&D one among others. But one of the books that I'm reading right now, I always try to have like one classic in rotation. I guess somehow I just assumed I'd read it, I've heard about it, but I've never read Life of Pi. So I've been reading that one. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through it, just reading it slowly. If every day I pick it up and read a few pages. But in that book, there's a hyena, and the main character, the narrator, is talking about, and I'm just taking this to be true. So I read it in Life of Pi, so it's going to be fact for me now. But he talks about why hyenas have like the ripped up little ears and stuff that is so characteristic of when you visualize a hyena in your head. And they said because as a pack they're so bloodthirsty, when they tear in to whatever prey they've taken down, they get so worked up into a frenzy that they start biting and ripping and eating everything. And so sometimes they even catch parts of each other in the fray, like one of their buddies' parts of his ear, and they just rip it off and keep eating. Like they don't even notice, they don't stop. So that's why they look so snarled up and raggedy, because they're so frenzied they actually are a little cannibalistic. Their favorite tactic is to send a few individuals against the foe's front while the rest of the pack circles and attacks from the flanks or rear, where they trip you, take you down, and then call you names and laugh at you. All right, lions are level 3. The stats presented here describe a male African lion. Where are they taking this from? We have African lions in World of Warcraft now. Where are we taking this stat block from? That makes me feel like they are ripping this straight up from like the monster manual, or like a Wikipedia page or national whatever. Because why the heck would they use it that way? 5 to 8 feet long, weighs 330 to 550 pounds. What's going on? Why are we calling it an African lion? Talk about breaking the immersion. I'm deep in the appendices of the web add-on material to their Dungeons & Dragons World of Warcraft. I want to be immersed. You're really pulling me out of my fantasy world here. Come on. Females are slightly smaller but use the same stats. They have an improved grab, a pounce, a rake, and a skills. And that's true. In Africa, they get +7 to their melee attack. And the people that have to try to catch them or fight them in Africa hate it. They're like, dang, that +7 and his +4 to balance checks. Lizards, Common lizards and monitor lizards. Common lizards are a challenge rating of 1/6. Okay, so 6 of them would make up a significant fight for a level 1 party. Even that, I feel like, how even would 6 lizards do anything to you? Ridiculous. And a monitor lizard is level 2. The stats presented here for the common lizard describe small, non-venomous lizards of perhaps a foot or 2 in length. Okay, so, all right, fine. If I was going to fight 6 iguanas, they're coming right for us. Then maybe I would, I guess, me and my homies could fight. Assuming I'm level 1 in combat, I don't know, I'm an old man. I probably leveled up a couple times in my life. Let's maybe give me a level 2 or a level 3. So from a strictly fighting iguanas perspective, I could probably handle like 20 iguanas. I'll sweep kick those little things. Lizards prefer, I used to have, when I was a kid, I used to have pet iguanas, and they freaking hurt. It says they prefer flight to combat. That's true, but they can bite painfully. Also true. But even worse than that, take it from an iguana owner. You'll know this if you also own an iguana. The worst part about them is not their bite. The big ones, they can freaking whip with their tail, and that thing will leave a welt on your arm. The biggest iguanas I had were like over 6 feet long from like nose to the tip of their tail, and I'm gonna tell you, yes, their bite would hurt. They gonna make you bleed, but worse than that, they decide to whack you with that tail. Not a good time. Okay, monitor lizards are large, fairly carnivorous lizards, 3 to 5 feet long. They are aggressive and use their powerful jaws to tear at their prey. I don't know a lot about monitor lizards. Maybe that's almost like Komodo dragon style. All right, mammoths. They're level 6, or the ice tusk mammoths are level 9. Mammoths are shaggy beasts that resemble elephants that live in Northrend and are capable of dealing frightening damage. In addition to their long tusks, a horny protrusion of bone juts from their foreheads. Really? And another protrudes from their backs? What? I gotta go. We'll have to look at that when we play. I do not remember mammoths having like unicorn horns and back horns. We're gonna have to check that out. They like to charge. I mean, they have tusks. They charge their foes. They're large and aggressive, and intelligent creatures avoid them. That's more of a commentary on what others do. Come on. Mountain lions are level 2. These cats are about 4 feet long and weigh about 120 pounds. They hunt at night. The stats presented here can describe any feline of similar size, such as a jaguar, a panther, or a leopard. They have an improved grab, a pounce, a rake, and they're good at jumping and stealth. All right, dipping into the second half of this extra set. We're getting close. It'll be fast. Most of it's my side commentary. Okay, octopi, level 1. A bottom-dwelling sea creature that's dangerous only to their prey. If disturbed, they usually try to escape. My daughter was just reading this book about like these, can't remember what it was called. She was just telling me about it. But all I remember is there's like a AI octopus killer. I don't know. It has improved grab, ink cloud. They shoot an ink jet, or no, they jet backward, like a cuttlefish or something. And they have stealth. Owls is the common owl or giant owl. Giant owl is like what the hunters would use as a pet. Level 1 quarter or 2, respectively. The stats presented here for the common owl describe nocturnal birds of prey from 1 to 2 feet long with wingspans up to 6 feet. They quietly swoop down. That's true. They are known for that, stealthy swooping. Large owls are 4 to 5 feet long with wingspans up to 12 feet. They're common in northern Kalimdor, where the night elves are, and where all hunters, they're like the best hunter pet. So hunters want to go there. They're aggressive only if disturbed, or if they use their screech or growl or whatever it's called for a bird. All right, I know you've been waiting for this one. The battle stat block of the pony. Challenge rating 1 quarter. The statistics presented here describe a small horse under 5 feet tall at his shoulder. Ponies are otherwise similar to light horses and can't fight while carrying a rider. A pony not trained for war does not normally use its hooves, but rather they run. Okay. Rats are even weaker. We found something weaker than a lizard. Level 1-8. And they have a plague of rats. Comes from 10 to 100. They're omnivorous and they thrive anywhere. They run and only bite as a last resort. Ravens are strong as lizards at 6 to a level 1. These glossy black birds are about 2 feet long and have wingspans of about 4 feet. They combine, that's big. They combine both claws into a single attack. The statistics presented here can describe most non-predatory birds of similar size. Rhinoceros. Rhinoceroses, if there's more than one. Level 4. This is, I know as of Northrend and beyond, for sure they have these, maybe even before. The rhinoceros is infamous for its bad temper and willingness to charge intruders. The stats presented here are based on the African black rhino. They did it again! Which is 6 to 14 feet long, 3 to 6 feet high at the shoulder, and weighs up to 6,000 pounds. I guess to be fair to them, there's no Northrend rhinos yet, because this came out right before Wrath of the Lich King came out, or right in that interperiod. So maybe a dev somewhere was like, yeah, include rhinos. These stats can describe any herbivore of similar size or with similar natural weapons like antlers, horns, tusks, or the like. They just lower the head and charge. Sea turtles. And also in Life of Pi, the kid wants to catch the sea turtle so he can drink their delicious blood. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it. I might be thirsty. I might be savage living out on the water by myself for like a year. I have to try and put myself in that headspace. I just don't know if I could get to the point where I would kill a turtle so I could drink its blood raw. I just don't know. I guess if I wanted to survive, I'd have to see how savage I could get. Sea turtles are aggressive animals with thick, heavily spiked shells and sharp teeth. That's heavily spiked? Some reports say that the Naga train these creatures and use them in war. Oh, so this is like the big war turtles that we're talking about. This is not like your cute little Finding Nemo turtle. Sea turtles trundle along the ground on elephantine legs and attack smaller creatures or creatures of the same size if prey is scarce. Yeah, this is a different kind of turtle. They just have a spiked shell, so if you attack them, you take damage. Aha, sucker. Sharks. There are medium, large, and huge sharks, levels 1, 2, and 4. Respectively, these carnivorous fish are aggressive and liable to make unprovoked attacks against anything that approaches them. Smaller sharks are from 5 to 8 feet long and not usually dangerous to creatures other than their prey. Large sharks can reach around 15 feet in length and are a serious threat. Huge sharks are true monsters like great whites that can exceed 20 feet in length. They circle and observe their prey, then dart in and blind them, and bite them with their powerful jaws. They have a blind sense. I think it's like an electric related truth. I think that's really how they have their senses, and they have that scent of blood and water. Again, I don't think they're actually smelling it. I think it's like an electrical thing. I think I saw like a Animal Planet kind of thing on it. Planet Earth, great show. Sheep. Challenge rating 1/3. They do exist in the game. They're like critters. Sheep are docile herbivores. Both black and white varieties exist, and they're prized for their wool. Some mages are infamous for polymorphing their opponents into sheep. They flee rather than attack. Rumors of them exploding spontaneously are unsubstantiated. That's like a engineering thing. But hey, thanks for actually pretending we're talking about World of Warcraft for a minute here. Instead of Africa. Sheep's bite attack is treated as a secondary attack. Okay, so they don't like to bite. Snakes. We have 6 different types. There are constrictors. Tiny vipers, small vipers, medium vipers, large vipers, and huge vipers. Constrictors are level 2, and then the other ones are 1/3, 1/2, 1, 2, and 3. Snakes are usually not aggressive, fleeing when confronted. They're good at listening, spotting, stealth, and balancing, climbing. Constrictor fight snakes hunt for food, but don't attempt to make a meal out of any creature that seems too large to constrict. Tell that to the people that made the movie Anaconda. Constrictor snakes hunt by grabbing prey with their mouths and squeezing it with their powerful bodies, where they then constrict. And then, I guess, eat you whole. Vipers range widely in size. They're not particularly aggressive, but often lash with a bite attack before attempting to retreat, and they poison you. Spider crab. This large crab stands 3 feet tall. This is a level 2. On its 6 thick spider-like legs, it has a bristly colored shell, and its left claw is significantly larger than its right. Lurking on seashores across Kalimdor, spider crabs are giant aggressive predators. Spider crabs are apt to attack anything that enters their territory, whether or not they can eat it. Spider crabs often seem to cluster together in colonies. The largest spider crabs, sometimes called limb rippers, or for the really big ones, behemoths, lead the way. They have an improved grab and a rend. I mean, you do fight a lot of crabs in the game. They sure do want you to get that succulent crab meat. Squid. Squid and giant squid. Level 1 or a giant squid is level 9. I'd have to think about whether or not you actually fight giant squids in WoW. I can't recall fighting one off the top of my head, but these free-swimming mollusks are fairly aggressive. They're more feared than sharks in some locales. Improved grab, an ink cloud and a jet. The giant squid are voracious creatures that have bodies more than 20 feet long and attack almost anything they meet. They constrict, improved grab, ink cloud, jet. They have their tentacles as well, which can be severed, but it will eventually regrow them. You know, giant squids have a special spot in the horrors of my mind. I remember going to Disney World when I was young. I don't know, probably younger than 10. And they used to have a ride there called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's not there anymore. And you would go into the sub, and then I don't even remember the deal because I was so young. All I remember is you just rocking around and being freaked out, and you're looking out the window, and there's like a giant squid eye. They also used to let you do the Skyway, and you would sit in like a little 2 or 3 seater thing suspended on a cable. You would just you can go across the whole park that way and look down, and you could see that ride below you as you crossed over the lagoon or whatever. All that's gone, but it was cool back in the 80s, early 90s. All right, the stag, level 2. Stags are common in forested areas throughout Azeroth. They are targets for humanoid hunters and natural predators like wolves, but their mighty antlers and ferocity make them difficult prey. The stats presented here also apply to similar creatures like an elk, moose, caribou maybe. They have a powerful charge. They avoid combat but can be aggressive in larger groups or when startled. They're particularly aggressive during mating season in the fall, and only at this time are they commonly found with females. Okay. Oh, the storm crow. Storm crows resemble ravens but are far larger. This is a challenge rating 1/2. Averaging 3 to 4 feet in height, although their frames remain slight. Their habits are much like that of their lesser brethren, but their size and speed earns them special regard. Superstitions say that seeing a solitary storm crow flying across the sky above the horizon means that a great storm is on its way. Storm crows are most famous for the fact that druids can take their shape. So that's the name of the bird that you're turning into. They can also be an animal companion. Says add this to the list. Guess what? You can pick it. Like other crows, storm crows feed on carrion fruit and the occasional insect, rarely attacking large live prey. If they do, several storm crows fly around a target, pecking and clawing before wheeling away. They are not brave, so any serious injury to a fellow crow causes them to break off, and they're good at spotting. Okay, the tall strider. These are those things you fight all throughout the Barrens. Level 2, tall striders are large flightless birds of prey that look to kill anything they can outrun or overpower. They resemble 6-foot-tall ostriches with strong, thick necks and heavy, sharp beaks. Tall striders are common in Mulgore, the Barrens, and Durotar. Young heroes in these regions hunt these beasts in tests of honor and valor. Tales tell of heroes who attempt to tame tall striders as mounts or beasts of burden, but these tales are typically humorous ones, unless it's a mechano strider. Tall striders are tenacious pack hunters. The tall strider's main mode of attack is with its beak and talons. Tall striders attempt to isolate single members of a pack of prey and run them down. When facing stronger prey, they harry a single victim if possible until after hours of running, the quarry is most likely exhausted and weak. It's a level 2. They don't act like that in the game. They just run around on their own. Tigers. Yeah, that's like a Stranglethorn Veil thing, level 4. These great cats stand more than 3 feet tall at the shoulder and are about 9 feet long. They typically weigh from 400 to 600 pounds. What, we're not going to say this is the tiger based on the tiger from India or whatever? Okay, they have an improved grab, a pounce, a rake, stealth. Oh, the toad. Now we have our official weakest creature. It takes 10 of these toads. These diminutive amphibians are innocuous and beneficial. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Since they eat insects. They're good at hiding. They're good at, like, hanging around my house. Actually, it's mostly frogs. Every now and then there's a toad, though. The frogs like to hang on the windows. I don't know why you could, if you fought 10 of them, why could your squad only handle 10? They're toads. What are they going to do to you? They can't even attack. Look. Why not say they have a -17 to grapple? Why not just fight 1,000? They have 1 hit point each. What are you gonna do? Are you just gonna get too tired from fighting them, from squishing them all? All right, weasels. Challenge rating 1/4. These little animals are aggressive predators, but usually confine themselves to smaller prey. The statistics presented here also apply to ferrets and similar mustelids. Definitely, they went to like an encyclopedia or Wikipedia or something to get this stat book. I would have done this differently, but whatever. I guess this is a free online appendix. How much can you ask for? They attach onto you and lock with their jaws. Okay, whales. There are baleen whales, cachalot whales, cachalot whales. I don't know how to say that. I've seen that name before. It's a real whale in real life, but I guess help me out. Is it cachalot? Cachalot? Orcas. 6, 7, and 5. You definitely fight orcas in the game once Northrend comes out. Some varieties of these seagoing mammals are among the largest animals known. Relatively small whales, such as the orca presented here, can be vicious predators attacking virtually anything they detect. They have blind sight and they can hold their breath. Baleen whales describe the plankton-feeding whale between 30 and 60 feet long, like a gray, a humpback, or a right whale. Right whales, I think, are like pretty much extinct now, I thought. The massive creatures are surprisingly gentle. If harassed or provoked, they're as likely to flee as they are to retaliate. Cachalot whales are sperm whales. Up to 60 feet long. They prey on giant squids. That's like Moby Dick. Orca whales are ferocious, called killer whales, are about 30 feet long. They eat fish, squids, seals, and other whales. I was out in the ocean one time swimming, and far out, and there was an orca. Or else this is a memory that I've like bastardized in my mind. I'm drawing on it from my childhood with my dad. Wind serpent, level 2. I'd have to look like where do they appear? Where do orcas swim? Because this would have been down in like way down by the Keys or Miami, somewhere around there. Wind serpents are simply put flying constrictor snakes. These serpents are sometimes found in the Barrens, and they're often revered by local tribes of savage races such as Quillbore, who see wind serpents as spirits of the sky. Yeah, they're like southern Barrens. Wind serpents are simple beasts that reach sizes of 4 to 6 feet in length and can weigh up to 50 pounds. While green is the most common color, their scales can range from any hue from dark brown to a faint blue. Their plumage often matches their scales, but with red or yellow tips. Yeah, you definitely get blue ones in the Wailing Caverns. Most wind serpents subsist on a diet of rabbits and rodents, but they'll eat things as large as small wild pigs or young sheep. While not aggressive, wind serpents are territorial, tending to attack anything that comes near their nests built high in trees. Wind serpents are ambush predators crawling among tree branches or flying silently out from the dark nook. They attack with lightning speed, swiftly poisoning their prey to death. Yeah, they do shoot poison. The variant, they vary drastically across their species. There's simply more kinds of wind serpents than would be prudent to include in this manual. For instance, some are constrictors instead of vipers. Other wind serpents are truly magical beasts instead of animals, and they have astonishing variety of magical abilities. Magic wind serpents are larger and tougher, and there's also the cloud serpent that represents one such magical variety of wind serpent, and they have the ability to breathe lightning. And finally, they end it with Wolverine. He is one of the more famous X-Men, often played by Hugh Jackman, has regeneration, adamantium skeleton, but somehow is just a level 2. He's similar to a badger, but it's bigger, stronger, and even more ferocious. Goes into a rage. All right, we have chapter 2 of the additional material, but we've only got a couple pages left. So this is vermin. I thought so. I was thinking we were leaving bugs out, and that's why we've got a couple vermin. They all share these traits at the beginning, such as dark vision, mindless. They are swarm-based. They don't have treasure or alignment, and you can't be one. So if you were thinking about playing a campaign as a swarm of beetles, Sorry, you're going to have to make those rules up yourself. Carrion beetle swarm, level 1/3. These insects make their homes near rich sources of carrion, thriving especially near graveyards. They feed only on the flesh of the dead. Carrion beetles bury the body of a slain victim and leave it for several days before returning to feed. Several more days may pass for a fully grown carrion beetle to consume a corpse completely, and nothing remains when it's done. I wonder how true that is. A carrion beetle sometimes lays eggs within a buried corpse. The larvae hatch and eat their way out of the body and then consume whatever remains. They then eat each other until only the strongest carrion beetle remains. So they have a battle royale. They wake up, they eat, and then it's boom, like Fortnite battle royale. The winner burrows its way to the surface and begins its own endless quest for dead flesh. That's your prize. Endless quest for dead flesh. They are simple, mindless, attacking alone or in a swarm. Giant scarabs are level 8. These enormous beetles carry a foul disease. The trolls of Zul'Farrak consider them sacred. They attack prey mindlessly, releasing a disease cloud that hurts your agility and stamina. Okay, that's all they really say. I guess they can just bite you. And plus 18 to hit. Yikes. There's no way a level 8 creature would have a plus 18 to hit. That's crazy. That's too much. That's more than like a ancient or an adult dragon has in current D&D. All right, so as you can see with how small the font has gotten, we have a lot of versions of scorpions. There are tiny, small, medium, large, and huge monstrous scorpions. Challenge rating going from 1/4 to 1/2 to 1 to 3 to 7. Oh, there's also gargantuan and colossal going from to 10 and 12 respectively. Monstrous scorpions are likely to attack any creature that approaches, and they usually charge when attacking prey. It's basically because no matter where you start, from the Valley of Trials on, you're going to fight these. They deal automatic damage if they successfully grab you with their claw, which they have an improved grab with. They can also use their tail to do poison. And they're pretty good at detecting you every time you think you're going to walk by to loot that peace bloom. They're coming for you. Monstrous spiders also have a variety. There's the tiny, small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan, and colossal. Monstrous spiders, this is it. This is the end of our book. This is where we end. Challenge rating of 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 5, 8, and 11. So they're a little weaker than the scorpions. All monstrous spiders are aggressive predators that use their poisonous bites to kill or subdue their prey. Monstrous spiders come in 3 general types: hunters, web spinners, and spitters. Hunters and spitters rove about, while web spinners usually remain immobile and attempt to attract prey. Hunting and spitting spiders can spin webs to use as lairs, but can't use their webs as weapons the way that web spinners can. Hunting spiders have a base land speed that's 10 feet faster than the figures given in the stat blocks above. Their poison, especially if they're spitters, they can spit that poison. It shows there's a table for their, I see, the strength damage. They can spit acid. They have webs. The web spinners can create the sheets to catch you. They can move across their own webs fine. They have a tremor sense. They're good at spotting, stealthing. The hunters are even better at it. And that's it. We've done it. We finished the monster guide and all of the extra material on our next reading episode. So 2 episodes from now, we're going to be starting our final Dungeons and Dragons book. Holy goodness. This episode is in the pipe 5x5. Hey, thanks everybody so much for watching and for listening, especially to my rambling ways. And I look forward to seeing everybody next time on Lore of Warcraft.